clergymen in the house tonight, we are a first century church tonight because we have no anyone ordained minister. We have an ordained minister in the house. Miguel, my good brother, is here, and I will. If you want to roll tonight, I've got a roll for you. No? Okay. All right. Okay. I've got a job for you if you want. Okay. The immersion tag itself is not nearly as important as the kind of energy it points to. Something deeper and more nuanced than just more of the same church that's not churchy contemporary service. Which, for as good as that is for many people, this is not yet approaching what I wanted or what we wanted here, which is unguarded, disarmed, and intimate connection with God and our community of God-seeking humans. I believe this is what we are born to search for. Now, as we stated a few weeks ago, we wanted a heart-over-head community where we could be fearless about feeling our faith, saturated by grace in what Brennan Manning calls the Christ-soaked universe, feeling God's magic, with feet stuck in the daily struggle, healing the people's misery, willing to walk in worldly muck. We speak the truth that we know, but we admit that there's so much more that we don't know about God, because God's infinite mystery can never be fully known. That's what makes mystery mysterious. That's what makes God God. Truth travels quickly, but could get quickly derailed and deranged if God's delight were not our aim. This is at first a tenuous and tentative theological truth born of study, but then suddenly an innocent and ravenous truth born of wonder, born of children's feet dancing in the Cookie Town streets. The idea for C2G came together in a spontaneous burst of spirit over dinner among friends. A research trip to a Presbyterian emerging congregation in Louisville, Kentucky gave us many of our ideas about how to structure and style our happy little liturgy of candlelight and liberation. Some of the features that folks found problematic with C2G would have been very easy to change. But we realized that each one of these features had become central to our imperfect but focused journey after God's truth. We could have made the changes and stayed at our church down the street. But what would have been left would not have been C2G. So here we are. We choose to begin each meeting with a moment of silence, of breathing in the Spirit, of coming together in candlelight, of sharing the light, of lighting that tiny spark of God that lives within each of us. We worship in an ambient, dimly lit room, illuminated in part by candlelight. Why? Why? Why do we start in relative darkness? Why do we need this light? Why do we need the light? I can think of few greater symbols of God's unfathomable and, yes, fabulous love than of candles illuminating a dark room. Aren't we, each of us, called to be those candles? Burning brightly with God's unconditional love. A loving, liberating light for a world rapidly descending towards its own destruction. Haven't we all on our worst days felt like the dark world, lonely, scared, lost, searching? Isn't authentic faith a little like spelunking in a cave, where we often crave just a little light? Doesn't it make you just want to sing and shout, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine"? Another objection came from our choice of music, from our blending of songs with secular roots and reviving them with a sacred flavor. Choosing the music and working with the musicians, thanks so much, Jesse, Talitha, Nate, Betty, Corey, this and Hannah, and my new friend whose name I can't remember, and Lindsay. Working with this particular group of musicians has been one of the greatest joys for me in creating C2G. And on the topic of sacred versus secular, I must admit it's our distinction, not God's. God's love claims all of creation and transcends every category. One of the reasons we had to move C2G resulted from hard questions. Is C2G really Christian? Or is it like Anne Rice, the famous writer, recently noted, just into Christ, but not his body, called Christians? Or is it some kind of Jesus curious, Unitarian Universalist, New Age pantheist hybrid, a hybrid, sort of like the Prius for prophets? Now, for me, having done more than just dabble in neo-paganism and the New Age movement while compiling my Walk on the Wild Side radical resume in devout heathenism and delirious hedonism, I am at some liberty to talk about what is dramatically different between the New Age movement and the 21st century church. Emergent church, which I've claimed that name. I'll tell you what's different. We follow Jesus. And if any of you are at all like me, following Jesus was not born of being trendy or cool or joining the in crowd, even though we are in the born-again Bible Belt. Now, I was born again, and I'm afraid there are a few notches in this Bible reader's belt, but come on, really, isn't faith in Jesus already less than hip, more hot than cool? A hopeful retreat from the cliff's edge, a life preserver for the drowning man, a ripped piece of bread dipped in juice and fed to the hopeless sinner, a life or death decision, a giant leap of faith into the realm of life over death. While all of our stories are different in the details, we follow Jesus for a few, just a few basic reasons. For what he did when he walked the earth in the flesh, helping, healing, hoping, and hurling the truth at the hypocrites. And for what he did on the cross. Crossing the boundary between human and divine. Crossing the boundary between heaven and hell. Crossing the boundary between emancipation and empire. And for what he did when he met us in our hearts, forgiving forever, and then forgetting what we needed to be forgiven for in the first place, making us once again perfect and pure in the immanent and transcendent power of perfect, pure grace. For these reasons, and so many more, we claim Christ and Christianity, each of us, for ourselves. But we also have to question what kind of Christ-like habits might best cultivate an authentic community of creative worship.